Hello everybody and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk to you about Marchman Act versus guardianship. And just this morning on a call I was asked by a family, okay, so which one do you prefer? What's your favorite, the Marchman Act or the guardianship? And I said, well, do you want a pickup truck or do you want a sports car? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, look, if I got to tow a boat, I'm going to need a pickup truck. If I just want to get there probably a little quicker, I'm going to have my sports car. And they said, well, which one is which? And I said, okay, let's talk about that. Like, what's the difference here? So, look, I'm a big fan of the Marchman Act. It's a wonderful tool that we use very frequently, terrific for where there's a primary substance use disorder. In other words, where we can prove substance use. But what is also really neat about it is it's quick, meaning, and again, this depends on the county, because there are some counties that are absolutely lousy with the Marchman Act, and I probably wouldn't even file the case in that particular county. But when it's done right, I can normally get a pickup order for assessment within a day. You know, if I file the case by 9, I get a court order by 12, and boom, by 3 o'clock, I have the person picked up. They're on the way to a receiving facility, and we've got them safe, and we can get them assessed and stabilized, detox, get them any medical help that we need. If it's done right. Now, again, county specific. And then obviously 7 to 10 days later, we're going to be in front of a judge and get them sent to treatment. So very quick, but it's very narrow in the relief that it gives. In other words, it only really gives me one thing, right? It's an order for your loved one to go to treatment for up to 90 days. And for a lot of families, that's all they need, okay? Now, that's the sports car, right? The guardianship is more of the pickup truck. So it's not quite as quick as the sports car, but it can carry a heavier load, right? It can, if I had a boat, right, it would tow the boat. Can't do that with a sports car. It just can't do it. Not what it's made for. And what I mean by that is it gives me a greater relief. There's 12 rights you can take away when you file for guardianship over somebody. One of which is the right to make medical decisions, but I can also control their finances. I can have access to their medical records. I can restrict, where they live, who they spend time with. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things I can do, but it's not as quick as the Marchman Act. So when we file for guardianship, we can also, as an add-on piece, we can file for what's known as an emergency temporary guardianship. So guardianship is the hamburger, and if I want French fries, right, which is the emergency temporary guardianship, I can have that too as an add-on. But I can't have just the emergency, the French fries alone. I got to have the burger first. So even when we file for emergency temporary guardianship, which is a 90-day court order, a bit like a Marchman Act, typically don't get into court somewhere between, and we used to tell families between 24 to 72 hours. These days, it can take up to a week. Again, it depends on the county, how busy the court is, how busy the judge is, how busy the clerk is. But again, it's not something that happens the same day, and it does require a hearing. Whereas with at least the first part of the Marchman Act, I can get the initial assessment order without a hearing if I can establish an emergency. So, one gives me greater relief, one's a little quicker but narrow in its application. In an ideal world, well, if I had the resources, I'd have a pickup truck and a sports car. I'd do guardianship and I would do Marchman Act together. And we do that a lot. Why? Well, because Marchman Act's faster, but guardianship gives more control. And for the families that have the resources, if you have the ability to do that, then that's what we recommend. I love doing them together. It's really gives you maximum control. I now have 2 judges I can run back to if I have a problem. And again, one's going to give me a slightly different form of relief, but at the end of the day, it's about controlling what is an out-of-control situation by the time you come to us. I mean, you've probably been dealing with this for 5, 10, 15, even longer in terms of the years you've been suffering and your loved one has been suffering. And so we want to really get control of this thing and get it quickly, because by the time you come to us, most of the time things are really starting to go downhill and rapidly. So when somebody says, well, what do you prefer? My answer is, if I can have both, I'll have both. And it just depends on what you need. Do I have a boat? Do I need that? Do I need more control like guardianship? Or do I just want to get there quickly? Is the sports car going to do the job? And really, it's a matter of what you need and what your resources are. And which is why I say, if you call the office, you can have a consult with somebody in our intake department and just figure out, at least initially, what works for you. I mean, what happens if we don't have enough evidence to prove substance use? What if there isn't any substance use? The Marchman Act's off the table, right? In other words, if I have a boat and I need to be able to tow it, I'm not even going to waste my time with a sports car. It just doesn't do the job that I need it to. So I hope that answers your question. And I appreciate you tuning in. Please give me a thumbs up. And if you could subscribe to the channel, I would be very, very appreciative. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.